As spring rolls around, it's time for the monsters to move outdoors. Big air, wheelies, and fast racing. They can do it all on a wide open track like this. The outdoors season starts now. This is Geared Up. Welcome to Fayetteville Motor Speedway on a beautiful spring morning. My name is Ryan Titus and I'm joined by the Overdrive MC, Austin Ashley. Now Austin, it's the season opener and we've got a few storylines. Tell me, what are we going to see today?
You know, we got 5 of some of the top drivers in the country here. We're going to start off with meeting our field of trucks. First off, we got Brittney Ames in Crime Time.
Cliff Vowell's got the power. He's in Virginia Giant.
And filling in here in Culture Shock, we have Paquet.
Derrow should be fast in bad news.
Representing the high roller name, it is Colton Kiser in High Roller 3.
So Austin, let's jump into it with some highlights from the Stunt Showdown. And first out, it's Virginia Giant. And as Cliff makes his first hit right there, remember, we've got 2 shows today. The trucks need to survive, and that was a solid start for Virginia Giant at the 21.
And coming out next is Paquet filling in Culture Shock. Culture Shock debuting that beautiful Dodge body out here. Scoring pretty well with a score of a 19, currently though in second place.
And now let's take a look at our rookie driver, Brittney Ames in Crime Time. Now, Brittney only has a few shows experience in the driver's seat, but showing some aggression right there by knocking off the top of that racing roller. We'll have to see if that affects the trucks later today in racing. You know, we're showing all these scores on screen. Those points are going to be tallied, and we're going to crown an overall event champion. And wow, that's going to help her points right there. What a massive launch early on in today's competition. And that's going to blow in the lead with the 24 as we take a look at the replays. She obliterated the top of that racing roller. But Austin, how about this?
And some huge air there from Brittney Ames in Crime Time. But coming out next is a veteran of the sport. It's Derrow. Bad news travels fast. A guy that's really known for his slap wheelies. You can kind of see him kind of poison that truck up in the air in order to try to get that slap effect down. Brandon lining up and hitting that second hit and getting a little bit of a slap wheelie. That score coming in at a 22, good enough for second place.
Not quite getting the slap wheelie that I think he wanted, Austin. But here's a truck that can definitely wheelie. It's Colton Kiser in High Roller, and I don't think that's what he was looking for either. You know, the back sides of those racing lanes, they really aren't angled steep enough for sky wheelies, as now he's going to go for a slap wheelie. And once again, I don't think that's what he was looking for either. That's only going to get him an 18, which means your winner in the Stunt Showdown is the rookie, Brittney Ames in Crime Time. What an upset to start the show on. Now that means she's currently leading for the overall championship, but right now, let's move into qualifying.
Coming out first for qualifying, we saw him go first out in the Stunt Showdown. It is Cliff Vowell in Virginia Giant with that huge Hemi power. Let's see what time he can set for all these other drivers to beat.
Now, he was in that lane that Crime Time knocked the top with the roller off of. That might have helped him. And hey, a 6.15, that looked like a pretty good run to me right there. And speaking of Crime Time, let's see how Brittney does in qualifying. She's already 1 for 1 today. She's already proved she can drive. And a little slow off the line. She definitely jumped a little higher off that roller than Cliff did. I don't think that's quite going to beat Virginia Giant, Austin.
And the time coming in for Brittney is at 8.30, currently seated second. Coming out next, it's Paquet in Culture Shock.
You know, this was a brand new design that they just debuted a few weeks ago, and it looks so good. The colors really pop on it, so let's see what he can do here in qualifying.
He's lined up. This is a rental this weekend, him filling in that Culture Shock truck. Looks like a pretty fast time. Is it fast enough?
He put the power down. That sure looked like a fast run. And wow, by nearly an entire second, Culture Shock blows into the lead with a 5.46. Now, I want to point something out. We have 5 competitors today, but only the fastest 4 will make the racing bracket. They truly are qualifying to race. And as we take a look at a driver who's always fast in racing, Brandon Derrow, Bad News travels fast, staying low to the ground and flying over the finish line. That looked like another good pass, Austin.
Yeah, a fast time indeed with a 6.58. Currently seated 3rd in that qualifying bracket. And coming out next, representing that High Roller 3 name, it's Colton Kiser. Seems to be off to a little bit of a slower start than we've seen with our other drivers, but flying across that finish line.
Hey, a 6.80, even if that wasn't the fastest run, it was fast enough to make the racing bracket. Culture Shock, though, was your fastest qualifier today, and hey, the team of Daniel Ames is 2 for 2 so far today. We're going racing, and it's up next on Geared Up. Welcome back to beautiful Fayetteville Motor Speedway. Let's go ahead and take a look at the racing bracket. First, we're going to see the fastest qualifier, Culture Shock, race Crime Time, and then we'll see Bad News Travels Fast racing High Roller. Now, Crime Time wasn't supposed to make the racing bracket, but Virginia Giant is having motor issues. Cliff is going to opt to sit racing out, and that's really going to hurt his chances at winning the overall event championship. I know Cliff is bummed about that, but in the meantime, let's jump into the semifinal round, Austin.
Now we're seeing the trucks out there on the track coming out first in this first race. It is a battle of the 2 teammate trucks. It's Brittney Ames and Crime Time and Pat Paquet and Culture Shock coming on out here. Pat Paquet with that higher qualifying time, and Brittney just making that qualifying pass and making it into the racing bracket. As a reminder, the racing point structure is going to be that first place person vying for that 30 points out there. And it looks like Pat might have not got both front tires up that ramp. What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, looking at the replay, they're even off the line. Crime Time goes high while Culture Shock stays low early on. And as they go over the final jump, look at the right front wheel on Culture Shock. He did not get it up the face of the ramp. Per Overdrive rules, he's going to be disqualified for that. So Crime Time advancing to the finals. She's the underdog today, but another victory for her. She's definitely turning heads. As we move into the second heat in the semifinal round, it's going to be Brandon Derrow in Bad News taking on Colton Kiser in High Roller. Now, these two are very different trucks, Austin, but Bad News is built a little bit better for racing. And as they take off the line, Brandon gets it collected much faster going over the roller. He's got a big lead.
Yeah, and Brandon Derrow taking that win out there. Hopefully we can get a look at this replay here on this race. He'll be going to the finals with Brittney, where you see he really makes up a lot of time and is what we call no man's land in between that first bump and then leading into that final ramp. He was the one that stayed closer to the ground over Colton Kiser.
And now Brandon Derrow is lined up in our final matchup, but he's got to race Brittney Ames, who's really had luck on her side today. That being said, Brandon is in the lane that's been better all day, and they're off.
And you see Brittney get some huge air off of that first ramp, and the win going to Brandon Derrow. Like we said in the last race, it seems like closer to the ground was the way to go to win this racing bracket. Your racing winner, Brandon Derrow. Bad News Travels Fast.
Thank you guys so much for coming out and supporting us.
Make some noise for the racing winner, Brandon Derrow. Bad News Travels Fast.
So right now, Brandon Derrow leads in the chase for the overall championship, but Brittney Ames has shocked the competition. She's only 3 points down, and either one of them could still win the overall. Culture Shock, High Roller, and Virginia Giant round out the field, all trailing from a distance. As now we move into freestyle, and first up, Virginia Giant.
Cliff Vowell coming on out here with a vengeance. He missed that racing bracket due to motor issues and is coming on out here to show the fans what the Virginia Giant has with that huge heavy power.
Yeah, Austin, he's down a few cylinders, and it does sound a little rough for sure, but props to Cliff for running with an ailing truck. Some drivers wouldn't do that, and this isn't something we see very often from Virginia Giant. I mean, this truck has always been in tip-top shape, even going back to the Deal Wilson days. And hey, so far, he's got a good run started.
And Cliff Vowell, one that's really known for a lot of his momentum in his freestyle runs, really going from hit to hit. You will never see this truck out here searching. Cliff out here putting on a clinic right now in momentum, even with the motor down some cylinders. I know he got a couple of motors rebuilt heading into this season, so might need another motor rebuilt and fixed to go to the further shows here in the Overdrive Monster Truck Tour.
Yeah, he may. I mean, owning a monster truck, you're going to have things break from time to time for sure. You know, you mentioned momentum earlier, and I really like how he's sticking to just the obstacles here on the front stretch. That's really allowing him to make a lot of hits in just a short amount of time. And there really hasn't been a slow moment this whole run.
Yeah, and what my favorite thing about Cliff Vowell is you can tell Cliff's emotions through his driving. You can tell when Cliff is angry. You can tell when he wants to put on a show. And right now, that's what he's doing. He's not happy that he missed out on racing and wants to go and put the best show on possible with a score of a 22 for freestyle. Starting that off super strong here.
Absolutely. Next up, it's crime time. Let's get to learn more about Brittney Ames.
My name is Brittney Ames, and I'm the driver of Crime Time. Crime Time is a name for the South Carolina State Troopers. The color, the logo, everything is based on that because we want to show support for police when it's needed. So the chassis is definitely an older one, but we're definitely trying to, prove what the truck can do. The name Crime Time is newer for this chassis. It ran as Culture Shock for 10 years, and before that I believe it was Easy Rider. I got into monster trucks when I first met my husband Daniel. This year actually is our 10-year anniversary, so I've been around monster trucks for about 10 years, but this will be my first full-time season driving. My favorite part about the event is pit party, so I get to meet all of the little girls that really look up to us. In the independent world, there's not many female drivers anymore. To get more children into monster trucks or racing, anything outdoors is really a privilege to be a part of. Show by show, I think that just getting a feel for the truck and improving with each show is a major goal. The goal is foot to the floor and to make sure the fans are screaming.
Foot to the floor, and hey, that right there, that'll get the fans screaming as she bounces down the racing course. Now, remember, she's sitting 3 points down from the lead in the chase for the overall event championship, just behind Bad News. If she wants a chance at winning that overall event championship, she needs to put up a big score right here. But that right there, slowing down and backing up, that's not going to do it. And that's not to knock her, it's a common mistake that rookies make. Let's see her get back out there, make some more hits, and I'm sure she'll make up for it. As she's approaching the backside of the racing lane right here, there we go. That's a big hit. That is going to score well, Austin. How about that hit?
And some huge air from Brittney, and like you said, she might not have the momentum aspect, but she's having some great hits out here. We saw her win the Stunt Showdown, which in my mind is one of the most comparable events to the freestyle competition. So let's see if she can carry on that success. In this freestyle competition, she's had a super strong start with a lot of great hits.
Oh, absolutely, Austin. And hey, look at her whip it around right there. One thing with Brittney is she does not show fear. She's very aggressive, and that makes her a lot of fun to watch. She's not as predictable as some of the other drivers are. Hey, I couldn't have predicted that. Getting a little bit sideways there. You heard a pop there on the landing. I don't think the truck is broke, but she's definitely giving that truck a beating.
Yeah, the Crime Time truck, one of the older trucks out here on the circuit out here today.
Oh, that's not good.
It looks like she just broke a tie rod on that front end. That will end her run here today.
Taking a look at the replay, hey, look at this. I think she went farther and higher right here than she did in Stunt Showdown. An awesome hit right there. Coming back over the racing lane, another big air. Austin, that's only like a 3 foot tall dirt hill. and she's jumping a good 10, 12, 15 feet or something like that up in the air and coming a little sideways. Hey, at 23, that's going to take the lead over Cliff Vowell, but only by 1 point.
The judges looking for those hits and momentum, but in the meantime, coming out next, it is Paquet in the rental, the Culture Shock.
Now, Austin, a lot of our viewers are going to know Preston Perez to be the driver of Culture Shock, and that is true. He drove Culture Shock for much of the summer of 2025, but the weekend this was recorded, he was wrapping up his time with Warp Motorsports driving Toxic and actually winning the All-Star Monster Truck Series Championship. What a magical weekend that was for him. So for this weekend and a few weekends prior, Paquet was in the driver's seat.
Usually the driver of Psycho Pat out on the circuit, this weekend filling in and driving the Culture Shock identity with that brand new Dodge Ram body, newly designed here this year.
Yeah, and you know, Austin, a fun fact about that body, that is actually the old Extreme Diesel body. It's the same fiberglass, just a different wrap on top. The late great Dave Zeros, not only did he own that body, but he owned the chassis sitting on it. So that's pretty much the old XTP truck right there. And you know, a little hiccup right there, Paquet having to back up. But it looks like he's going to line up this ski jump.
Yeah, and Pat's no stranger to the big air, whether it is his own truck or someone else's truck. This guy is a veteran of the sport out here. Putting on a clinic, some good momentum. We did see him kind of have a little hiccup there a second ago, but him going out there and kind of seeing a little bit of a combination of the last two runs that we've seen of some of Brittney's air not quite as high, and then also some of Cliff Vowell's momentum not quite as quick as Cliff, but kind of seeing a little bit of a mix of the two runs.
Oh, absolutely. You know, Culture Shock right now is laying down a solid run, a good run, but I don't think this is quite going to be enough to take the lead. You know, I'm sure team owner Danny Lames would like to see this truck finish the show in one piece, especially with damage already done to the Crime Time. They're going to have to make a few repairs before our show tonight. Hey, look at that, a 25 for Culture Shock. The judge is going to award him the lead right there. I don't know if I quite agree with that, Austin.
And coming out next, an Overdrive staple out here on the floor. It is Derrow, and Bad News Travels Fast. This truck with a lot of history, as a lot of these trucks out here. Brandon, also a veteran of the sport. You know, he really loves to keep that truck as clean as possible. I see a lot of dust flying out there in the air. I know Brandon will probably be power washing that truck right after this event. But first, he's going for that overall event championship.
Oh, absolutely. Brandon is a very competitive driver. And hey, look at that little slap wheelie right there. If he keeps moves up like that, I think he's got a great chance at winning this overall event championship. You know, coming into freestyle, he had a 3-point lead over Brittney Ames. Brittney laid down a 24-point score, so at this point, Brandon only needs a 21 to win the overall championship.
And Brandon driving that beautiful truck out here, getting some big air out there. Like we said earlier in the stunt showdown, Brandon really known for his slap wheelies, where he seems to be able to get a slap wheelie. We saw a small one from him in stunt showdown, saw one a little bit earlier in this freestyle run. I want to see what else he can put out there in terms of slap wheelies to kind of diversify himself from his other competitors.
Yeah, you know, Austin, this is Brandon's first show of the year. A lot of these other guys ran the first quarter tour, you know, some indoor shows here and there, but Brandon hasn't done anything this year. He's probably trying to get a feel for the truck and see how it's handling this year. He rebuilt parts of the truck in the off season, so this is kind of a tester run for him per se right now.
And Brandon coming out there and scoring a 25, meaning he's tied for first with Paquet in Culture Shock. And we have one last driver out here coming out. It's Colton Kiser in High Roller 3, starting off some huge air.
Hey, Colton is the only one who can break that tie right now between Culture Shock and Bad News. And with leaps like that, I think he's got a good shot at it. Now, at the time this was recorded, High Roller 3 was still fairly new to Colton. I believe this was only the 5th or 6th show that he had done with this identity. And you know, this is a very unique truck that really gives him an advantage in freestyle. The frame is just as long as a modern day Eddie or PEI chassis, but it's got a shorter wheelbase. Now that shorter wheelbase means this truck likes to wheelie, you know, just like that right there. But with its odd dimensions, the bed sides really stick out pretty far from the back wheels, and it's pretty common that Colton rips the bed sides right off the truck when he does a wheelie. But hey, that just makes it a little more fun to watch, right, Austin?
100%. Andy Hoffman's old truck there with the 4-wagon and Nightmare Identities. Colton Kiser out there running this truck, owning this truck as well. Used to be huge in the mini monster truck circuit with the American Scout, usually running the American Scout on his full-size monster truck, but this year representing the High Roller 3 identity.
Yeah, and what an awesome combination that is. You know, Colton is someone who really respects the history of monster trucks and looks up to the Bigfoot guys and Alan Pizzo. So seeing him represent an old school monster truck and campaign the High Roller name, it's like the perfect fit, a match made in heaven. And speaking of heaven, High Roller launching to the sky right there, that was a perfect jump. And going for a sky wheelie again, you know, like I said, those ramps really just aren't angled right for sky wheelies. I guarantee you, if they were, he would have stood that truck up on the wheelie bar.
Yeah, this is a great run going. He's having probably the biggest air we've seen, at least off of that huge ramp that we see at the end that he's hitting right now.
Nice.
And gets a sweet
Nice.
slap wheelie. Something we were talking about Brandon Derrow kind of going for a couple of different times. Colton Kiser putting down the best slap wheelie of the day.
Hey, like I said, it's that short wheelbase. You know, this thing is absolutely a wheelie machine, as well you can see right there. You know, that was an awesome way to end out his run. Now, as we look at some replays, Austin, I have a hard time believing that that wasn't a winning run. He had the big air, he had the wheelies, and he had perfect flow throughout. The score to beat's a 25, and yes, with a 28, that is going to take the freestyle win. You know, Austin, we had 3 competitions and 3 different winners. No one dominated per se, but as we take a look at the final points, Brandon Derrow snuck away with the overall championship, but that's really not the story here. Brittney Ames, with only a few shows experience, finishes in second, only a few points behind Brandon. What an accomplishment. There's no doubt that she can hang with the rest of them now. High Roller, Culture Shock, and Virginia Giant round out the field. Hey, stick around. The evening show starts next. Welcome back to Geared Up. You know, we saw Crime Time had some issues with that front tie rod earlier. Well, they're just going to leave it on the track and fix it right there. Brittney's husband, Daniel Ames, he's the one doing the repairs. Hey, shout out to Sean Baker, our track guy. He's the one who's making these ramps perfect, putting in the hours there in between shows. And we're not done with Geared Up after this. We've got a number of shows still left to go this year, including some bigger shows. Bristol, Tennessee, 12 trucks, Swansea, New Hampshire, 10 trucks. Those are going to be awesome, Austin.
Yeah, for sure. But we're here in Fayetteville, and first up on show 2, it is the Stunt Showdown. And coming out first, it was the winner from the first event. It's Brittney Ames in Crime Time. Let's see what she can do here at Fayetteville for the second show out.
Hey, and again, with another beautiful launch, Austin, she is not afraid of it.
No, and Brittney seems to be going for that big air in the Stunt Showdown. It won her the first competition here earlier in the day. Let's see if she can hold off and win this Stunt Showdown.
You know, I kept mentioning that these ramps really aren't angled for sky wheelies, and sometimes we have crushed cars or concrete in the ramps to help pop the trucks up, but that's not the case this weekend. I really think that these big air hits are about as much as you're going to get out of this track, Austin.
Well, and I want to make a note too. We saw that truck almost kind of in pieces at the beginning of the transition between the show, and the crew put this truck together, and this truck is flying high here for the very first event of this show here at Fayetteville. We just saw Brittney put that truck through its paces and score a 24 here in the Stunt Showdown, starting this off strong and possibly going for that second Stunt Showdown win in a row.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance she goes 2 for 2 in Stunt Showdown with that. A great way to start off the show. Hey, moving on, let's take a look at Virginia Giant. Now remember, Cliff had some motor issues earlier today. He was down a few cylinders and the engine was popping. It just didn't sound right. Now, he made the repairs, and right now, I imagine he's just testing the waters out per se and making sure the truck feels right and sounds right before racing in freestyle later on when he's really going to have to get on it.
And Cliff going for that sky wheelie, attempts on both hits there for the Stunt Showdown. We saw Brittney kind of hit those same obstacles, and the score of a 19 for Cliff Vowell. Your leader still is Brittney Ames in Crime Time. Coming out next, it's Brittney's teammate Pat Paquet in Culture Shock, seeing if he can top that score of a 24 here in the Stunt Showdown.
Hey, look at that, a little slap wheelie. You know, Austin, he got lucky the way the truck landed there. It sent him right in between those two rollers. I don't think he could have gotten that slap wheelie if that landing didn't work out perfectly. You know, he might not be getting the big air that Brittney got, but that little slap wheelie was something different, something the audience tonight hasn't seen. That might work out well for him.
You see Pat running out here as the sun's setting up. His score is a 20. You see those brake rotors sparking up on that front end. Let's see if that affects him for the rest of the show. But in the meantime, we're moving on towards Brandon Derrow, and Bad News Travels Fast, someone that is very much known for those slap wheelies. Let's see if he can pull one off and possibly top Pat Paquet with his slap wheelie game.
Yeah, you know, that was a good jump right there. I guess doing his best crime time impression, hitting the same obstacle that Brittney did. Now, if he wants to win another overall event championship, he's going to need a strong start right here and a high score, and I think he might be going for it.
And Brandon looks to be lining up for some more big air, you know, possibly reestablishing his run to be a little bit more like Brittney Ames with that big air rather than the slap wheelies that we saw from Pat Paquet. And his score shows with a 22, still not enough for the lead, but a little bit of a higher score that we saw out of him. And coming out next, it's Colton Kiser in High Roller 3. Let's get to know the driver of High Roller 3.
My name's Colton Kiser, driver of the High Roller 3 monster truck. So I've been around monster trucks my entire life. Through going to shows with my dad, we got to meet Todd and Nancy Olson down in Florida who had the Kid KJ team. That kind of got me introduced into the mini monster trucks. I drove for a couple years for Todd, and then we went completely independent in 2016. The chassis, I believe the build started for somebody in Indiana, somewhere in Indiana. I don't know the story, but Andy ended up with the chassis. Andy was kind of ready to slow down. He started slowing down a little bit with the truck, and so he was ready to sell this one so he could rebuild his other one, and we ended up with it. This year is the 40th anniversary of the High Roller monster truck. Jeff Kreckler bought High Roller 2. He restored it, he ran it, and ended up actually rolling the truck at the Bigfoot Open House. Jeff wanted to do something really special for High Roller. He wanted to find someone who was willing to run his body on their chassis, and I'm very blessed to be able to say that I'm the one that he chose to do it, that he's trusting us with this, and hopefully we can keep this going on for a long time. Hopefully we'll be able to celebrate High Roller's 45th and 50th anniversaries as well. I love the whole event, but freestyle is my thing. I love going out and just putting on a show. If these fans can come out and get the show that they paid their hard-earned money for, that's my goal, is to give them that show. I want the fans to remember how loud the trucks were and how high they went.
Hey, you want to talk about how high they win? Colton certainly aired it out in freestyle earlier. Let's see what he's got for Stunt Showdown.
That score to beat, still with Brittney Ames in Crime Time with a 24. You saw Colton Kiser coming out there, going over the racing lane, getting some big air, kind of following the footsteps of Brittney, seeing what these judges want. Seems to be big air in this Stunt Showdown.
Yeah, you know, I like how he hit that jump from the other direction. You know, he was able to carry a little bit more speed and jump a little farther than anyone else has. And he's trying to really set himself apart. And that is going to set him apart. That was a perfect slap wheelie. Dragging the wheelie bar through the dirt, that's what he's been looking for all day long. Anything you can do to separate yourself is good, and that was perfect.
Look, we're looking at the replay here, and I can't believe the bedside stayed on this truck. You see the back end of that truck dig into the dirt, and it pays off. A score of a 26, meaning he is your winner of the Stunt Showdown here for Show 2 here in Fayetteville.
So, as Colton pops through the windshield and salutes the crowd right there, we're going to get ready for qualifying. Now remember, all 5 trucks will qualify, but only the fastest 4 will return for the racing bracket. They truly are qualifying for a spot in the bracket. And first out is Crime Time. Now remember, Brittney caught a few lucky breaks earlier today and made it all the way to the finals, but I know tonight she wants to earn her spot.
And Brittney seems to struggle off that first hit. The truck kind of bouncing a little bit in that no man's land for that qualifying time. And it shows the 7.53. Let's see if these other drivers can top that. With coming out next, it's Cliff Vowell and Virginia Giant. Like you mentioned, Ryan, he did make the bracket. However, due to truck issues, he was not able to actually race earlier today. So he's out for vengeance and hoping to make this racing bracket.
Yeah, and it looked like a little bobble coming up over the roller, but I think he made up for it in no man's land. You know, earlier today you said he drives his emotions, and a 6.46 shows that he wants to make the racing bracket tonight after a rough showing earlier. That was about an average time for this track, but he's already bettered crime time, so we know he's making the bracket.
For sure, and coming out next, it is Paquet in Culture Shock. He starts a little bit slow, but keeps that truck down to the ground off of that first roller and soars across the finish line. Let's see what his time comes in at, and it's a 6.95. Right now, still your fastest is Cliff Vowell in Virginia Giant with that 6.46.
Yeah, Culture Shock was the fastest qualifier earlier today, but not tonight. Now, next up is the guy who won this afternoon's racing bracket. He made a count when it mattered. And hey, as he's taken off the line, he's staying close to the ground. This is looking like another good pass. Now, Austin, I'm curious to see if one lane is better than the other tonight. Earlier today, the near lane was better than the far lane. And as we wait for his time, a 6.21. That's another good pass, Austin.
Yeah, and Brandon Derrow, definitely someone that I always think is sneaky fast. Not a lot of people will say he's out there to win races, but he gets the job done. We saw it earlier. But coming out next is our last person in Monster Truck qualifying. It's Colton Kiser in High Roller 3, looking to make the bracket. It might be close. And his time comes in at a 7 flat. He does make the bracket, meaning that Brittney Ames in Crime Time is the one that does not fall into the bracket. And your fastest qualifier is Brandon Derrow, and Bad News Travels Fast.
So, Austin, taking a look at that bracket, Colton did just enough to make the bracket. Now he's going to have an uphill battle, though, racing Brandon Derrow in the first round. And then Culture Shock and Virginia Giant will go head-to-head for the first time today. Now, as we get into our very first semifinal race, it's going to be High Roller versus Bad News Travels Fast. And, you know, as I mentioned earlier, the lanes being different, sure enough, the two fastest qualifying passes came from the near lane. These two raced each other earlier. Brandon won from the near lane. Let's see what happens tonight.
Yeah, lane choice is key here. It does seem that so. You know, we try to make these lanes as equal as possible. When we get started off, is Brandon Derrow and Colton Kiser, and Brandon taking the early lead and seems to take the win out here in the very first race against Colton Kiser.
Yeah, Bad News stays close to the ground. He puts the power down in no man's land. Brandon takes the win, and he's headed back to the final round. Now, let's move on to our next semifinals race, and for the first time today, we're going to get a look at Virginia Giant in the racing bracket, and he'll be racing Culture Shock. Now, even though we didn't see Virginia Giant racing earlier today, we know that when that truck is running right and when that Hemi is humming, it's hard to outpower him, and hey, he's got that near lane that seems to be faster, so let's see what happens.
And Ryan, let's see if your theory holds true. That would mean Cliff Vowell coming home with the win, and he seems to be taking the lead. And it seems like, off the naked eye, it seems like Cliff Vowell and Virginia Giant is your winner. Yes, he is. The official word is Cliff Vowell and Virginia Giant. Like you said earlier, that near lane to the audience, taking all those wins.
Hey, don't go anywhere. We're coming right back on Geared Up with more action. Welcome back to Geared Up at Fayetteville Motor Speedway. And as the trucks pull the line, let's get right into our final round race. It's going to be the Virginia Giant, who had to sit the racing competition out earlier today, and he's going to do battle with Bad News, the truck who won racing earlier today. It's Ford versus Chevy. This should be a good one.
Not only that, but two guys that square up against each other many times throughout their career and are good friends on and off the track. But let me tell you, they love nothing better than to beat each other here on the track. Let's see who comes away with the win.
Hey, they're even off the line, staying close together. Hey, that is about as close as you can get. And oh, Cliff locks up. Brandon trying not to hit that freestyle obstacle. Austin, I don't know who won. Who do you think?
You call it. You call it. I cannot call that race right now. It seems like Cliff got on the gas quicker in no man's land and on the ground there, but he let off a little bit at the end.
It looks to me like Virginia Giant by inches, and yes, Cliff taking the final round win. I know he was bummed he missed racing earlier, and you know, maybe he didn't get the points he wanted to in the stunt showdown, but this is Cliff's comeback. This is his redemption arc. Let's hear from him.
Brandon Derrow, if there is a competitor that is tough, it is Brandon Derrow, and Bad News Travels Fast. Him and I have been going to battle now for probably a good 7 years. It's a good trade-off. It's Ford versus Chevy. But tonight, ladies and gentlemen, Ford took the win.
Like I said, the Cliff Vowell redemption arc is in full swing. He leads for the overall event championship, but he's only 2 points up from Bad News and 3 points up from High Roller, who won freestyle earlier today. So Cliff needs to put up a strong score in freestyle to win that overall. It's still anyone's game. There's only a 10-point spread between first and last place right now. And out first for freestyle, it's someone who we know can throw down, Brittney Ames in Crime Time. She had an awesome freestyle earlier today. Let's see how she fares tonight.
Yeah, and a tale of two shows for Brittney Ames in Crime Time. We saw her pretty close to the top there in show 1, and seeing her at the bottom there, really a lot due to the racing performance and not making that racing bracket here. So she's hoping to make that up. She still had a great performance in Stunt Showdown, but Brittney's really looking to get those points on the boys and hopefully get out of last place for that overall championship.
Hey, and that's how she's going to get the points right there. Another big air shot, just like she's been doing all day. And you know, you bring up the points, there's more to the story than just the points. Even if she's not at the top of the leaderboard, she's proved that she can hang with some pretty talented competitors, and for a new driver, I think that's an accomplishment in itself. She's definitely going to be one to watch for this season.
Yeah, and the sun has obviously set here in Fayetteville. We see those police lights going off for Crime Time right now. She's going out here, getting some big air out here in freestyle, hoping to set the bar early and hopefully topping even her score from earlier at show 1 here in Fayetteville.
Yeah, you know, people love seeing the concept trucks, especially the kids, and when the sun goes down and the lights can shine bright, it really makes that state trooper concept pop. Now, she's in the infield. It looks like she's going to rip some donuts and kick up the dust, Austin.
And Ryan, I believe this is the first time we've seen donuts here in Fayetteville, seeing a quick little revolution here, but Brittney going out there and showing a bunch of different skills, and it shows off and pays off with a score of a 23 to start this freestyle competition off.
Yeah, you know, a short and sweet run right there, but hey, it gets the job done. Now, Pat Paquet in Culture Shock, he's filling in. He had a good performance earlier today. Let's see what he can do tonight.
Pat coming out there, hitting that racing lane, starting off strong.
Yeah, you know, Austin, being called in as a fill-in driver, it really shows you how much trust this team is willing to put into Pat. You know, they don't want their equipment tore up, and so far, Pat has done a good job without tearing the truck up much.
You know, he seems to definitely have some better momentum than Brittney out here, and we're seeing it on the track right now. You see those sparks flying. We talked a little bit about them earlier in the Stunt Showdown. Could be a little bit of wear and tear on those brakes. Pat kind of on those brakes in this course, trying to keep that momentum up and get through these quick turns.
Yeah, there might be a minor issue with the brakes causing them to spark up. I can't quite tell. But regardless, like you said, flowing very well from move to move, keeping up the speed. And that's just something that comes with experience. You know, Pat has done this many times before. He knows what he's doing. And, you know, that's something really nice about these large outdoor venues, is the trucks really have a lot of space to pick up speed. You know, in some of these shoebox tracks and small arenas, they just can't get on it. But hey, right now, Pat is cruising around all over this speedway.
Yeah, for sure. And using the track up, Pat's definitely going around this entire track, making sure that that motor is making its noise out here for the fans. And we see Pat get some more big air off of that roller.
But he's got problems, Austin. Listen to that engine. Something is wrong with it, and it looks like he's going to turn back away. You know, he's going to salute the crowd at 22. That's going to put him in second place right now. A good run. Crime Time remains in the lead.
And coming out next, it is your racing winner. Coming out for freestyle, it's Cliff Vowell and Virginia Giant, starting off strong off the biggest jump that we have out here on the track. Cliff looking to make up from that first show earlier in the day.
Yeah, you know, if he can place well in the overall, he definitely can make up for it. But he's got to lay down a good freestyle right here if he wants to win the overall.
And you know, Cliff, known for his momentum, but also known for putting on freestyles that I'm pretty sure are closing in on 5 minutes there. You know, Cliff really runs that truck until the gas runs out, I like to say. I think he just tries to make all the weight at all the rest stops in his truck and empties out all the gas from that truck in an effort to do so.
Yeah, Virginia Giant is a top-notch piece of equipment. You know, Cliff spares no expense, and that's why sometimes he'll put on these 3, 4, 5 minute long freestyles. And another thing is maintenance. More so than a lot of other teams, Cliff really puts in the time ensuring that this thing is always 100%. And hey, if he's going to win that overall event championship, this truck is going to need to stay at 100%.
And I mentioned it earlier, it looks like we're seeing some donuts here at this second show, and Cliff going for the strongest set of donuts.
Those were
into
good.
A little bit of a cycle in there, and that beautiful square body Ford truck that we have out here, a recreation of the original Virginia Giant body out here on this current day chassis.
Yeah, you know, that's sort of a trend we've seen over the past 5, maybe 10 years in monster trucks. A lot of teams have created retro or throwback bodies that pay homage to their truck's history. Virginia Giant is no different, and it looks like he's going to wrap it up right there. Now, as we look at some replays, I think right here he was going for a slap wheelie. The front end just didn't quite rebound the right way, didn't get back up in the air. But this donut is really what brought his run together, and a 24 for Cliff. So interesting, there's still little room at the top for Bad News or High Roller to clinch tonight's overall. We'll see what happens in freestyle for them.
And we talk about the sun being set. One of my favorite trucks to look at when it is dark out is Brandon Derrow and Bad News Travels Fast. Let's hear a little bit more from the driver of Bad News Travels Fast.
We'll go out here and see what we can do. We just got our shocks redone, so we're going to see if we can go out here and get some of those patented slap wheelies that people's gotten used to seeing Bad News doing.
So he got the shocks redone in the offseason. You know, Brandon got a slap wheelie earlier today, but it was down there in the corner, down in turn 1, and there's really not much room to run out a nice long slap wheelie like I know he can do. We'll see if he gets it here. No, not quite. I think Colton Kiser really found the best place on the track to do a slap wheelie. Nonetheless, Brandon's still putting on a good show.
Yeah, and Brandon, one to not shy away from any big jump, and you can see him hitting that obstacle. Those shocks need to be working great there. That truck sucking up that huge hit that he just did off that huge jump.
Well, he's going to need that. Remember, he was 2 points down from Virginia Giant before freestyle in the chase for the overall championship. Cliff scored a 24 in freestyle, so now Brandon needs to get at least a 27 if he wants to leap ahead of Virginia Giant.
Yeah, and kicking up the dust there in that corner, that was a great way to take a corner, really kind of going into 2 revolutions of a donut in there to kind of switch it up from being a little bit monotonous for those turns. Brandon Derrow trying to switch things up in order to try and top also Virginia Giant's score and possibly come home with this freestyle win.
Yeah, he's already won a racing competition. I'm sure he'd like to win a freestyle as well. Now he's headed to the infield, and it looks like he's going to turn around and head for the slap wheelie ramp. Now I'm interested to see what he can do here. You know, he wanted a slap wheelie. That's what he said earlier. High Roller got a slap wheelie off this jump, but it's just not working out there. You know, Brandon doesn't do the mid-air brake check like a lot of other drivers do when going for a slap wheelie. He says that's just not how his truck works, and I'm not sure he's going to be able to get that bounce he needs for a slap wheelie off that little ramp. Nonetheless, you got to appreciate the attempt.
He saw Brandon on that back end of the racetrack really hit that kind of bump that was already there from the racetrack. Kind of a cool little move, kind of switching it up. No one really hitting that and getting a little bit of air and keeping that good speed. Looks like he's going into a donut. I almost feel like there's a little bit of a competition here between Cliff and Brandon with those donuts. And he comes away with a score of a 24, meaning he is tied with his rival, Cliff Vowell and Virginia Giant.
Hey, you know what? They were right beside each other in racing, and they're right beside each other in freestyle, too. A pair of 24s sit at the leaderboard right now, but there's one guy to go, and it's the guy who won freestyle earlier today, Colton Kiser, High Roller. Now, Colton can win the overall event championship, the door is wide open. Right now, Cliff Vowell has a lead. If Colton Kiser wants to win, he needs to get a 28-point score here in freestyle. Earlier today, that's the exact score he got. He got a 28 in freestyle, so he needs to match that performance or better. And hey, if he keeps going the way he's going now, I don't think that'll be a problem.
And Colton, another one of those, known for his big air and those slap wheelies. We saw one of those huge slap wheelies in the stunt showdown. He's hoping to kind of imitate that here in the freestyle competition, put it together with a couple other moves here.
Yeah, Colton is skilled and he's aggressive, and this is the last run of the night. He doesn't have any reason to hold back.
You see he's going for it right now. Doesn't quite catch it. Seems like a little bit of a traction thing. Also not getting that bounce. Kind of heading over that roller on the back end of the racetrack here. Circling around to the grandstand side. That truck lighting up with those beautiful LED lights on the front and on the chassis.
Yeah, Austin, you mentioned traction, and that's a really interesting point. The dirt at this speedway is very loose and silty. It's almost powdery. It really doesn't give them the traction that they need to get a slap wheelie or a nose wheelie. But what it's good for right there is sliding around corners like that. You know, if High Roller didn't have such a short wheelies, I don't know if he would have been able to yank the front end up and get those slap wheelies we saw from earlier today. But nonetheless, that right there was a great launch. Austin is doing an awesome job.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the case with a lot of these places around here. Not all the dirt is always perfect, and these drivers have to adapt their driving style to this dirt. And it seems like he might be having a little bit of an issue with the steering here as he comes to a close here for the freestyle competition. Looks like he's ending it off.
Yeah, I think he wants to stop it before he breaks it. Let's take a look at some replays. This was the fastest paced, highest energy run we've seen all day. The truck was running just about perfect. A couple of real nice launches right there. And yes, High Roller is going to win freestyle with a 26 as he gets a little crossed up here on his final jump. It looks like the truck is okay. A well-deserved freestyle win. Colton goes 2 for 2 in freestyle today, but it wasn't enough to win the overall championship. Virginia Giant hangs on. What a comeback, going from last place earlier today to first place tonight. But it couldn't have been much closer. High Roller only 1 point down, and Bad News only 2 points down. Crime Time and Culture Shock rounding out the field. That's going to do it for us today on Geared Up. It's been a great season opener. The competition was tight all throughout. I mean, nearly everyone walked away with a win. Now, this is just the start. For the next one, we're headed to Bristol, Tennessee for one of the biggest independent shows of the year. But in the meantime, thanks for joining us. This has been Geared Up.